Okay, you can begin.
Hi, good day. Our topic is on power and influence, and our group consists of Len J. Lindsay, Aliyah S. Rampasa, and myself, Stacey George. Next slide. This chapter explores the topic of leadership, power, and influence. It begins by discussing transformational and charismatic leadership, two leadership styles that rely strongly on a leader's personal characteristics as a source of power. Next slide. Bill Strickland is a passionate leader who transformed a struggling Pittsburgh neighborhood by founding Manchester Bidwell, which is a nonprofit that provides at-risk youths with arts education, job training, and low-income adults. His journey, job training for low-income adults. His journey began as a struggling high school student until he met Frank Ross, a teacher who introduced him to the power of art and architecture. A visit to Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water inspired Strickland's lifelong vision of bringing beauty and opportunity to undeserved communities. With unwavering belief, Strickland built Manchester Bidwell, including a state of the art greenhouse where students now grow and sell high quality orchids. His ability to see potential where others see decay allowed him to turn a bombed out industrial area into a thriving center of education and economic empowerment. His leadership style is defined by his refusal to acknowledge obstacles, focusing instead on possibilities. His influence stems from his deep passion and ability to inspire others, proving that true power comes not from wealth or status, but from vision, determination, and belief in a better future. Strickland is an example of a charismatic and transformational leader. Next slide. So we're looking at transformational leadership and transactional leadership. Transformational leadership has a significant impact on followers and can revitalize an organization. It contrasts with transactional leadership, which is based on exchanges between leaders and followers. Next slide. Transactional leadership leaders meet followers' need in return for task completion, ensuring efficiency and stability. Where transformational leadership focuses on management functions like planning and budgeting, helping to build confidence and morale. Transactional leadership is effective for maintaining order. It does not promote change. So when you comparison between transformational and transactional leadership, so transactional leadership, they just is someone who will tend to make sure that the rules are followed and they don't really like much change. Where transformational leadership will encourage you to bring about change and innovation, innovative ideas. They will encourage you to bring change. Where transactional leadership, they just mean that you have things set up a certain way and you just follow that. In today's fast changing environment, leaders must also adopt transformational approaches to drive innovation and growth. Transformational leadership drives significant change in both followers and organizations. Next slide. Right? Transformational leadership will shape vision, strategy, culture, and innovation. Unlike transactional leadership, which relies on rules and incentives, transformational leadership will emphasize on vision, shared values, and relationships to inspire change. So, a transformational leader will encourage a relationship with others to make you feel comfortable to bring about certain ideas to them and will encourage change in the organization for the betterment of the organization. Where transactional leadership just will stick to the rules, follow the rules and the structures that's set up in the organization alone. Right? Transformational leadership is based on a leader's personal values and qualities rather than exchanges with followers. Research shows that transformational leadership enhances follower development and performance, and its skills can be learned. Skills like emotional stability, emotional intelligence will support in transformational leadership. These leaders create change through strong, positive relationships. Next slide. Michael S. Michael Eskew, a former CEO of UPS, embodied both transformational and transactional leadership. As a transformation leader, he drove innovation, he expanded the global operation, and prioritized employee development. He led UPS's shift from a package delivery service to a global logistics company. As a transactional leader, he maintained operational efficiency, enforced performance standards, and ensured financial stability. His balanced leadership approach enabled UPS to evolve while maintaining a strong logistical foundation. So you can have a nice balance of both transformational and transactional leadership. Next slide. Transformational leaders often possess charisma, inspiring enthusiasm and affection. But unlike charismatic leadership, which fosters awe and submission, transformational leadership focuses on enhancing followers' engagement and empowerment. Next slide. So here's a comparison between charismatic leaders and transformational leaders. Charismatic leaders possess the ability to inspire and motivate people beyond their normal efforts, often emerging in times of crisis to give you a sense of calm. You know, you have maybe a volatile situation or maybe a tough situation, and a charismatic leader will encourage you to be calm, take your time, and things will, work out. While transformational leadership seeks to engage followers, charismatic leadership commands attention and instills awe. Charismatic leaders appeal to both the heart and mind. They persist through challenges and unite people under a common mission. Next slide. So here we have two examples of charismatic leaders. Amir Khalid, who emerged as a young charismatic Muslim religious leader in Egypt during the Mideast crisis of the early 21st century. Khalid's sermon delivered in an emotional, impassioned manner touched people who were searching for a moderate approach to living as a good Muslim. And Lloyd Ward, he revitalized the U.S. Olympic Committee. He was brought in as a chief executive of the United States Olympic Committee at the time when the organization was torn by internal strife and suffering a loss of public trust. The USOC believed that Ward, known as a master motivator, with the ability to unite and inspire people with a vision, could use his charisma to heal the fractures in the organization and restore the US Olympics to glory. Though charisma itself cannot be learned, aspects of charismatic leadership, such as passion, enthusiasm, and emotional engagement, can be cultivated. Next slide. Charismatic and non charismatic leaders differ in their approach to leadership, influence, and change. Non charismatic leaders are likable due to their shared perspective with followers relying on trust, disinterested advocacy, and maintain the status quo with limited incremental goals. They articulate their objectives clearly within existing norms, using conventional methods and primarily drawing authority from their position and rewards. In comparison, charismatic leaders, they inspire admiration through an idealized vision, often taking personal risks to passionately advocate for change. They create an atmosphere of transformation with high goals, using strong and inspirational articulation to motivate others. So charismatic leaders help to motivate you to do good and be the best that you can be at your different tasks. Unlike their conventional counterparts, they employ unconventional means. They will challenge the norm and they will transcend positional authority, gaining influence through personal expertise, respect, and admiration. Ultimately, while non charismatic leaders ensure stability, charismatic leaders drive innovation and change. So I just want to put out a question here. What type of leader are you, or what type of leader have you ever come in contact with in maybe your personal life, your home, or your job? What type of leader? Is it a transactional leader? where they make sure that rules are followed alone. And sometimes if you bring about some type of suggestion, they turn you down because they want to stick to the rules. Or a transformational leader who are open to suggestions, a charismatic leader who will encourage you to be calm and to look at things differently, where you could put it in a different perspective, where you can deal with a situation, or have you come into contact with somebody with all these traits. So you could just open your mic and speak.
I think I've come in contact with a leader with all these traits before.
Okay. So like with me, I am in my working environment, I have people who are under me. I am the in charge there. And I believe that I try to have all these traits. We have rules that we must follow. However, I'm open to suggestions. I always tell them, well, any idea, or sometimes if something have to change, I will ask them, what do you think? How do you think we should do this? How we want to, if you want to change this and put it in a different way, will be easier, or to make the whole organization more efficient and how in the normal runnings. However, not differing too much from the rules that the organization put in place. Anybody else want to add anything? Okay, so going on. Next slide, please. So now we're looking at power, influence, and leadership. Next slide. Power can be defined as the ability or capacity of an individual, group, or entity to influence, control, or direct the behavior, actions, or outcomes of others or events. It can manifest in various forms, such as physical, social, political, economic, or intellectual, and is often tied to access to resources, authority, or expertise. Power cannot be seen, but its effect can be felt. Other definitions stress that power is the ability to achieve goals or outcomes that power holders desire. Power will give someone the ability, or an organization to influence other people to bring about desired outcomes. Next slide. Influence. Influence refers to the ability to have an effect on the character, behavior, decisions, or development of someone or something. It often involves guiding or shaping outcomes, either directly or indirectly, through persuasion, authority, or other means. Influence can be subtle and can stem from a variety of sources, such as personal charisma, expertise, or position of power. Influence refers to the impact a person's actions can have on the attitudes, values, beliefs, or behaviors of others. So let me just give an example. Um, Again, I'm using myself as an example. I have a strong spiritual belief, and where I work, they don't really have that similar belief as I do. But I have seen as time go by, how I live and how I the type of things I listen to, maybe the type of songs I listen to, or even how I speak. I start to see where they start to emulate that type of behavior from me, and it's because of the influence. So influence will affect, so be my behavior and how I do things. My influence will affect their behavior and how they will see things and how they will act. Power, yes, is a way that you can bring about people to do certain things, but influence it reacts differently. All right, next slide. So here we have different types of leader power. We have legitimate power, reward power, coercive power, expert power, and referent power. So we'll just touch on these a bit, some definitions. Next slide. Legitimate power is authority granted through a formal position within an organization. So, like, let's give an example, like a school principal. That principal will have the authority to make decisions about school policies, and that person will oversee these teachers and his staff, and they will manage the daily operations of the school. So the teachers and the staff will comply because they recognize this principal's position and the authority that that person has. Reward power. Reward power is the authority to influence others by offering rewards, such as promotions, pay raises, or access to resources. Leaders can use this to motivate people and their behavior. Employees often depend on leaders for resources and they need to perform their tasks. So let's say like a manager, they will motivate the employee by offering an incentive such as like a bonus or promotion based on their performance, or a sales team leader might give a bonus if that employee if they exceed their target for that month. So that will influence their behavior to strive to push for more sales. So that's an example for reward power. Coercive power is the ability to influence others through the threat or application of punishment, such as firing, demotion, criticism, or withholding pay increases. It is considered a negative counterpart to legitimate and reward power. So, example of reward of a coercive power, a manager who will enforce strict consequences for performance. So, if an employee fails to meet certain deadlines, that manager may give a formal warning, reduce the responsibilities, or even terminate their employment. Expert power. Expert power comes from a leader's specialized knowledge or skills. Subordinates follow the leader's recommendations because of their expertise. However, at higher levels, leaders may lack expert power, as subordinates often have greater technical knowledge. Expertise within an organization can also be used strategically to influence decisions or achieve desired outcomes. Referent power. Referent power stems from a leader's personal traits that inspire respect, admiration, and the desire to emulate them. Referent power is similar to when you give off a charisma. It's based on their character rather than their former position, and is a key element of charismatic leadership, which relies heavily on referent or expert power. All effective leaders leverage referent power to some degree. Example for referent power could be a leader who will inspire their colleagues. Um, they will listen to the team's concerns, support the growth. They will build relationships with them. Team members will admire them and they will willingly follow their guidance. And they will even try to emulate their positive traits. This influence stems from the leader's personal qualities rather than their position. Next slide. So it's the different group in here. Personal power for expert and referent will fall under personal power. Legitimate, reward, and coercive will fall under position power. Next slide. So leaders will use different types of power to influence others in achieving organizational goals. The outcomes of their influence can vary and typically fall into three categories: compliance, resistance, or commitment. When leaders use position power, which is legitimate, reward, and coercive, the typical response is compliance, where followers obey but may not fully commit or perform to their potential. So you see, legitimate, reward, and coercive power, yes, you will do it. However, if you use too much of coercive power, you will put up some resistance. Um, I'm sure some of you all may have been in a position where somebody may threaten you to threaten you if you don't do something the way they want it to do. Yes, they may do it, but how does it affect you supporting them in the long run? And anybody have any example of this where they ever come into a position where somebody threaten them if you don't do this how I want it to be done, this will happen. And yes, you do it, but you're not really doing it because you really want to do it. Just do it just because. Anybody could just open your mic and if you want to give an example or Okay, so we're just moving on. Excessive use of coercion can lead to resistance where employees avoid or disobey orders. On the other hand, personal power often generates commitment, which is expert or referent power. Followers will embrace the leader's viewpoint and enthusiastically follow instructions. So the outcome that you want will depend on how you give out, how you use your power. So how you use your power to somebody will give that type of outcome that you want. So yes, if you want them to do what you want now, or if you want them to support you, support your ideas, and for the betterment of of the company or the organization. Next slide. The ripple effect. A ripple effect works because everyone influences everyone else. Powerful people are powerful influences. If your life works, you influence your family. If your family works, your family influences the community. If your community works, your community influences the nation. If your nation works, your nation influences the world. If your world works, the ripple effect spreads throughout the cosmos. So you have the video. I think it's like
This is Staff Sergeant Patrick Shannon. After returning home from 8 years in the Marines, he was looking for a new job. Wanting to put his leadership skills to good use, he took a job at Walmart, where he was given the support and opportunities he needed. When America called upon him to serve once again, he knew he would be welcomed back at Walmart. And he was. Now, Patrick is leading other associates as a fresh operations manager. And he's even created a foundation giving veterans and their families a little help too. That's the ripple effect.
A little support can go a long way.
right, so we're seeing where his influence or his behavior could encourage other veterans to do like what he did. Some of them may have think that they have nothing else to do with their life. They feel depressed after what they did before, serving. His behavior and what he did could encourage them. So that's an example of the ripple effect. So how you do it could encourage or influence others to do the same, as a positive change. Next slide. Dependency. A key aspect of power is its relationship to dependence. So let's say like a manager who have the responsibility of overseeing a critical project. They have access to important resources such as budget approvals and team assignments. The members will depend on that manager for guidance, decisions, and resources to complete the task. Because the team rely on that person for these crucial elements, that manager will hold that power over them. Next slide. The dependency dynamic between leaders and subordinates in organizations shifts based on economic conditions. So we see where different economic conditions will change the dependency relationship in organizations. So in a time where there's lots of jobs, employees will find they will have more options. So they won't be as dependent on the employers as before, when the employers now they will struggle because they will have to depend on the employees. So they'll have to give them good incentives to stay, give them good salaries to stay because the market is so big and they have so much options. Where in another setting where employment is tough, jobs are scarce, the employers now will have more power over workers now. The employers they will depend now on the organizations for jobs. Okay, next slide. Dependency in organizations is tied to control over resources such as jobs, rewards, financial support, expertise, materials, and information. Leaders and organizations gain more power when these resources are important, scarce, and non substitutable. Next slide. The importance of resources is based on their value in driving success, decision making, and stability. Resources create power and dependency when they boost revenue, efficiency, or compliance. Scarcity describes how easily a resource can be obtained. A resource that is rare or costly to acquire holds greater value and increases dependency compared to one that is readily available. Non substitutability refers to the absence of viable alternatives for a resource. Leaders or employees who control such unique resources like specialized knowledge, expertise, or access to influential individuals, they will hold greater power. So now I'll pass you on to my team member. She will continue. Thank you.
Now we're going to speak about sources of leader power in organizations. The strategic contingencies theory highlights power sources that are related to the leader's function within the organization as a whole rather than to any particular individual or position. These sources of power are interdepartmental dependency, control over information, organizational centrality, and coping with uncertainty. So the first source, which is interdepartmental dependency, is a major source of leadership influence in many organizations. So departments may have one-way flow of materials, resources, or information, and leaders in departments receiving resources may have less power than those in departments providing them. For example, in a restaurant, the person doing stock keeping would rely on those in the kitchen to let them know what is needed, like a specific seasoning or meat or vegetable that they would need to make a certain dish. The waiters that take orders from customers would rely on the kitchen to prepare the correct dish and in a timely fashion. The kitchen staff and the waiters also depend on the cleaners to be able to get their job done in a clean environment. Interdepartmental dependency guarantees that the entire organization functions as a team and that each department can effectively perform its role. The efficiency of other departments may suffer if one fails to fulfill its responsibilities. Next, we're going to speak about control over information. It is evident that certain people will likely always have greater access to information than others, and that does not change. One significant source of power for leaders is control over information, which includes both access to information and authority over how and to whom it is disseminated. In the business world, control over information refers to how an organization controls and governs the movement, availability, and utilization of information both inside and outside the company. Maintaining operational effectiveness, safeguarding sensitive data, making sure rules and regulations are followed, and making well-informed decisions all depend on having effective information control. For example, let's say a business is planning to propose a new idea or product, and someone in management discloses this idea to one of the employees lower down in the hierarchy. This information can now easily spread to the ears of their competitors, and now they can steal this idea and call it their own. Another strategic contingency is organizational centrality. So, centrality reflects a leader's or a department's role in a primary activity of an organization. An individual, group, or department's position or function within an organization that grants them substantial influence or access to important data, decision-making procedures, or resources can also describe this contingency. A central position in an organization frequently indicates that the individual or division is essential to tying together different organizational components promoting communication, and organizing activities. So, an example for this can be if a main member of a staff in school has to plan a sports day for the school, they would be in charge of like organizing everything, tying everything together, and everybody would have to report to that one person. Next is dealing with uncertainty. For leaders, the environment can change quickly, causing uncertainty and complexity. Leaders have limited information about appropriate actions to take when faced with uncertainty. Department leaders will gain more authority if they can effectively handle this uncertainty. For instance, market research staff members earn authority and reputation when they correctly forecast shifts in the demand for new items since they have eliminated a significant uncertainty. By assisting the company in addressing the uncertainties brought forth by these labor unions, leaders in industrial relations may increase their influence. Next, we're going to talk about increasing power through political activity. Power acquisition and use are primarily political processes involving the pursuit, development, and application of power and resources to achieve goals. Effective leaders must possess assertiveness and use rational persuasion to articulate their thoughts and opinions. They should be likable, rely on the rule of reciprocity, develop allies, ask for what they want, and remember the principle of scarcity. They should extend formal authority with expertise and credibility as people value rare or difficult to obtain things. By demonstrating these principles, leaders can effectively influence others and have positive results. I will now pass you on to Len.
All right, so a certain leader influence. So one of the key things with a certain leader influence is assertiveness. So assertiveness is expressing one's thoughts confidently and respectfully. So assertive um, influencing is an effective leader must harness assertive techniques to clearly articulate their thoughts and opinions. This includes using I statements to express personal viewpoints and importantly maintaining open body language. So you can rehearse what you want to say, um, keep your emotions in check. Next slide, please. So the seven principles for a certain leader influence. One of the principles is rational persuasion. So using facts, data, and logical arguments to support your position. So people are more likely to follow when presented with objective reasoning. So for an example would be you're at a business meeting and you want to propose an idea, and to support that idea, you can support it with market trends and data to help persuade others to follow your idea. Next slide, please. So be likable. So you can basically make people like you. So this can be by building relationships with trust, respect, and fairness. Um, show genuine concern for others and give praise when deserved. So basically, the more people like you and respect you, the more they're willing to support your ideas. Rely on the rule of reciprocity. The rule of reciprocity is basically give and ye shall receive. So basically give and get in return. But the key thing is to make sure that you give first, whether it can be by helping them, giving them recognition, or giving them opportunities. So for example, helping a colleague can now increase the likelihood they'll support your future initiatives. Next slide, please. Develop allies. So you can engage in informal conversations to understand concerns and gain support. So basically, a strong network makes it easier to lead and drive initiatives. For example, you can align yourself with key team members before a big meeting. That way, they're more likely to support your ideas during the meeting. And next, you can ask for what you want. You have to be direct and clear about what you need. By confidently expressing uh, your request increases the chances of getting a yes. So basically, instead of hinting, you can explicitly ask for what you want. Ask for what resources or uh, what kind of project support you would require. Next slide, please. Remember the principle of scarcity. Basically, supply and demand. If there is a low supply, then there is a high demand. So people value what is rare or difficult to obtain. So you can frame your ideas as unique opportunities with limited availability. Right. The other principle is extend formal authority with expertise and credibility. So a good example of this would be like as a manager, even even as a manager, authority alone isn't enough. So it comes down to your credibility. So as a manager, you can demonstrate you can demonstrate knowledge and how reliable you are as a manager, because people trust and follow those that they perceive as competent and knowledgeable. Next slide, please. Now we'll see a short video on politics and ethics. Um, so leadership involves both influence and responsibility. Power can be used ethically or unethically, and leaders must be mindful. Play, please.
Like power, politics often has a negative connotation due to people who abuse political power. However, politics is critical in our career success. In our economy, money is the medium of exchange. In an organization, politics is that medium. Managers cannot meet their objectives without the help of other people and departments over which they have no authority or positional power. So you need to work within the system to climb the corporate ladder. Politics is the process of gauging and using power. As you can see from the definition, power and politics goes hand in hand. Political behavior is used to develop relationships that are necessary to get the job done. Three primary political behaviors commonly used in organizations are networking, reciprocity, and coalition building. Networking is the process of developing relationship alliances with key people for the purpose of politicking. Reciprocity involves creating obligations and debts, developing alliances, and using them to accomplish your objectives. Many organizational decisions that are supposed to be made during a meeting or vote are actually decided through coalition building. And then finally, etiquette. When using power or politics, our behavior should be ethical and use proper business etiquette. Business etiquette, often referred to as manners, is the code of behavior expected in work situations. Etiquette skills can be improved as young people today are taking etiquette classes. If you haven't been concerned with business etiquette, start now because etiquette is important.
All right, if anybody's talking, we're not hearing them.
Oh, sorry. Um, I was saying, what is politics? So what was uh, previously described in the video, the use of influence and networking and negotiation to achieve goals. So a selfish use of political power can ultimately be self-defeating as it erodes trust and commitment and loyalty in its victims. So basically, if you use political power selfishly, you're basically uh, putting down yourself as a leader. It wouldn't benefit you, as your victims would then lose trust and move away from you. And the ethical use of political power can motivate people to more be in with what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Next slide, please. So ethical versus unethical power use. So power can be used ethically or unethically. Leaders must be mindful. So a socialized leader would use power for greater good, benefiting the organization and people, while a personalized leader would use power selfishly, prioritizing their own interests over others. So in the next slide, we will give a good example of, these two. Next slide, please. So a good example would be the Volkswagen company and the Costco company. So the Volkswagen company has been, it's been unveiled that the Volkswagen company was in a scandal where they had admitted to installing software in diesel engines to manipulate emission tests. So it would allow the vehicles to appear more environmentally friendly than they actually are. And this deception would have affected approximately 11 million cars worldwide and led to a significant legal battle and financial repercussions for the company. So because of this, Volkswagen would have lost, from the victims, they would have lost the trust of their customers, as well as um, they would have brought, given themselves a bad reputation as a company as well. While Costco is well known for their model of ethical business. So they're known for paying above average wages and providing good benefits to their workers. They emphasize respect and transparency on long-term employee retention. So these two are good, provide a good contrast in what an ethical use of power is and what an unethical use of power. The next slide, please. So this is an image taken from the text, and it provides a good breakdown of what you should ask yourself as a leader that would bring about a more ethical, the most ethical action, ethical choice, I mean. So you can ask yourself, is this action consistent with the organizational goals? So am I doing this for myself or am I doing it for the organization? Is it fair? Is what is the action I'm going to do? Is it fair for those around me? Um, would I wish to behave in the same way? Would I want others to act the same way towards me if I was in the same position? Um, Next slide, please. And now we'll have the conclusion.
So, the transactional leadership that focused on exchange and stability, maintaining existing structures, and ensuring order. It emphasizes immediate needs such as wages, job security, and compliance with rules, whereas transformational leadership empowers followers with autonomy and encourages independent decision making within organizational groups. It shifts focus from basic needs to higher level psychological needs, inspiring followers to work for the greater good. Transformational leaders create and communicate a compelling vision that makes the challenges of change worthwhile. Power, influence, and leadership can manifest in various forms such as physical, social, political, economic, or intellectual, and is often tied to access to resources, authority, or expertise. Dependency on leaders is a key aspect of power, with low unemployment resulting in more leverage for employees and high unemployment resulting in more dependence for leaders. Organizational dependency arises from the control over key resources, which are important, scarce, and non-substitutable. Leaders who control unique resources like specialized knowledge or access to influential individuals hold greater power. Leader power in organizations come from internal departmental dependencies. Control over information, organization, organizational centrality, and dealing with uncertainty. Internal departmental dependency helps each department effectively perform their roles, and organizational centrality is crucial for coordinating efforts across the organization. Thank you, everyone. That's the end of our presentation.
And that brings us to the end of our presentation. These are our references we use.